Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom, and we're celebrating today because it is our 200th episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. And if you hear my baby in the background, that's because I'm not in my podcast closet. I'm in the main room with her hanging out. But I had to record this intro just to say thank you for being here. It's crazy that we've already done 200 episodes. Insanity. And to celebrate, we're going to be doing some sweet giveaways. So all you have to do is go rate and review the show. We're almost at 100 reviews, which is awesome. So rate, review the show, and then you could send me a screenshot of your review. You can send it to me on Instagram at She's Making an Impact. You can email it to us at clientcare@rachelandgom.com, and you'll be entered to win one of my favorite personal development books and some sweet She's Making an Impact swag. So if you've been a listener of the show and enjoying the content, but you haven't yet rated and reviewed the show, I would appreciate that so much. Oh my gosh, here's to 200 more episodes. Thank you for being here. Yay. Welcome to the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. I'm an entrepreneur, mom, adventure lover, and creator of Pin with Purpose, the Impact Blogging Academy, and Activate. I went from food stamps and negative $400 in my checking account to a multiple six-figure online business. This is your show to learn from me and other rockstar entrepreneurs how to monetize your passion and live out your purpose. If you're ready to increase your income while making a massive impact on the world, this is the show for you. I'm so pumped you're here. Let's get started. Today, I wanted to share with you an interview that I was actually interviewed for my good friend Allison Hardy's podcast, the Figure Mom-Preneur Podcast. And that she interviewed me on all things mindset and how to create a six-figure mindset. And I just love the questions that she asked and everything. And I had so much fun recording this episode with her. So I wanted to make sure that I shared it with you. So we're going to dive in and talk about some six-figure mindset hacks. Today's interview, I am interviewing the amazing Rachel Ngom. And guys, Rachel and I are longtime business friends. And the thing I love the most about Rachel is her relentless pursuit of her goals. When I think of Rachel, I think of someone who's super driven, someone who is super ambitious, and someone who's unwilling to compromise on those goals or to settle on those goals. Maybe that's a better word for that. She never settles for good enough. She only accepts excellence. And what that does is it allows her to leave a true legacy. In her episode, she talks about the mindset work she does. In her episode, we talk about the personal development that she has gone through and how she is now truly living out her purpose in what she's doing and how she's giving back to others. Rachel is extremely missional, and the legacy that she is leaving is just so incredibly inspiring. So I'm so excited for you guys to listen to her interview. So let's get right to it. Rachel Ngom is the host of the She's Making an Impact podcast. She's a business and a lead generation expert helping purpose-driven female entrepreneurs drive more traffic, leads, and sales through Pinterest, blogging, and a strategic use of automation. Rachel went from being on food stamps with a negative $400 balance in her checking account to a multiple six-figure online business. She now helps others do the same with her signature courses and programs. Rachel has lived in Kenya, met her husband in Senegal, got married in Morocco, and spent 2 years in France. So Rachel, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me.
You have seen some serious results in your business over the past 2 years. So I'm really excited to dive into what has really helped you to facilitate that success. So I would first love to know, what do you think your superpower is in your business?
I think being consistent is one of the big ones, showing up consistently. Another one is just being authentic and being myself.
How do you stay consistent? What do you do to stay consistent? Because I think that's
systems.
Everyone's.
Yeah. Batching systems and having a killer team that helps with it. But in the beginning, even when I didn't have a team though, I was always very, very consistent. I read The Compound Effect when I started my first business back in 2011 or 2012, whenever it came out. And that made such a huge impression on me. I think I listened to it like 3 times and I was like, all right, you don't have to do like a million things in one day. Just do small little things every day and you'll see success. And so having just like a schedule for me, I use Google Calendar for like my life to put everything on there. Like I have it, I'm looking at it right now. And I'll put reminders in there and I have it set up so it automatically repeats. So like every 2 weeks, I have a reminder to schedule out emails. Every 2 weeks, I'll have a reminder to go look and see, do we have enough Instagram posts scheduled? And I'll have reminders like every month to batch record YouTube videos. And so batching is a huge part of it, but also just having those automatic reminders set up. So it's like, I'll never get behind or scrambling. We always batch. So we have plenty of content kind of in the queue. It's never like day of like, oh crap, we need to send an email out. We're always like at least 2 weeks in advance and thinking about that stuff ahead of time.
Oh, you guys, listeners, like how amazing would it feel to have 2 weeks worth of the content ready to go at all times? Like that is, I feel like that's what most of us deeply desire. So with that, Rachel, do you find that it helps you to stay consistent with your messaging?
Oh, for sure. Because I'm not kind of like scrambling, like a lot of times if you're like last minute trying to come up with something, it's going to be crappy content, like if you're doing it in advance, you can sit down and be a little more intentional about it.
So another thing you said was authenticity. So I think people struggle with this. I really do. I think that a lot of people have a really hard time with this. How do you be authentic, but still like an expert at what you do? How do you have that balance?
This is something I struggled with too when I first started my business. And I just thought if I looked at what successful people are doing and I emulated that and or copy and pasted their post and posted it as my own, that I would be successful. And that's not the case. It wasn't until I really started just embracing who I am and putting that out there that I started to attract my tribe. And it's totally fine to show up and be yourself and be authentic and teach and add so much value to your ideal client at the same time. So I'll show up and do Facebook Lives without makeup on, or I remember I did one like in a robe out of the shower just because I had something really important to share and I was busy and didn't have time to get like all perfect. And oh gosh, I remember we did this really big challenge. This was my first big challenge when we were in the same mastermind. It was literally like right after I got my eyebrows microbladed. So my face was hilarious. Like, oh my gosh. And you could see the evolution of my eyebrows just getting like different every single day throughout that challenge. And I had like a boot on my foot. I was in Chicago at my parents' house for the week. And so I was hiding in their wine cellar. And I was just like, y'all, we're just going to keep it real. Like I'm going to add so much value to over these next 5 days, but you got to know what's going on like with my life. And I think people appreciate to see the behind the scenes and just to know that you don't have to be perfect to build a great business.
Yeah. I remember when we were in the mastermind together, at one point you were talking about this like Instagram story ad you were running. And I was like, what is this Instagram story ad? And you're talking about it's doing really well. And you're like, what the best part of it is? It's that I literally just filmed it on my phone and I don't have any makeup on and my hair's up in a messy bun and I love it. And I was like, dang girl. But you were talking about how it was really serving your audience and how it's converting really well and you're getting all these really ideal people in your network. So I think that just goes to show, guys, everyone who's listening, like you don't have to have a perfectly polished brand. You just have to have a really strong message and be unapologetic about it. Do you agree, Rachel?
Totally. Have a super strong message, know who it is that you're serving and add freaking value.
Yeah. Speaking of the mastermind we were in a mastermind in 2018 together, which feels like it was yesterday, but also like a quadrillion years ago, which is so funny to me, right? So when you and I were in the mastermind, one of the like first things I learned about you was that you're really, really committed to mindset work and personal development. So can you talk a little bit more about that and why you're so deeply committed to it?
I remember again, when I started my first business, like I was just a sponge. Like I was 23 or 20, I think I was 23 when I started that business. And so I was just like soaking up everything. And I remember it might've been like Brian Tracy who said, you've got to invest on yourself. And if you work harder on yourself than you do on your job, you'll be unusually successful. Maybe it was Danny Johnson that said that. I'm not sure. But I just kind of took that to heart and I was like, I got to work on me and my own mindset. And Tony Robbins says the psychology of the leader is what the business's success is dependent on that. And so success in business is 80% psychology, 20% mechanics. And so that really made me think, how can I continue to grow as a leader, work on my psychology so I can have that crazy awesome business? And it's just been that thing where I've been super consistent again with reading and challenging myself and seeing how I can put myself in different growth environments. So back when I was doing network marketing, I worked with a Tony Robbins coach for an entire year. I went to Unleash the Power Within. I made big investments in myself and my mindset and my business, right? So it wasn't just I would invest in like a social media training. It was I invested $7,000 to work with a Tony Robbins coach for a whole year, which is a lot of money for us back at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I invested to go to Date with Destiny and to really immerse myself in that kind of environment. And the more I've grown, the more my business grows. And what I've seen a lot of times is people are the cap on their own potential. And so there's like a ceiling. I know John Maxwell talked about this. It's the law of the lid. If you read 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. So the law of the lid is one of his leadership laws. And it's just saying like you have a lid right now and you're capping your own potential, and you have to raise that lid if you want to grow in every area of your life. And you have to do that by surrounding yourself with people who are growing. So like being in a mastermind, by being intentional and reading personal development. So one of my goals for Q4 was to actually read a new book every week. And I crushed it last month.
Did you?
8 books last month.
Good work. That's impressive.
Yeah. And so just seeing how you could always grow, that's one of my big things. Like, how can I always grow? Tony Robbins says you're either growing or you're dying. Your business is either growing or dying. Like, you're not going to just keep it where it is and stay happy, you know? And so how can you keep growing so you keep getting that momentum that you need?
So how do you, let's give some tangibles. Like, what do you do daily to work on your mindset?
I wake up early for the most part. Like, I would say 80 to 90% of the time. I'm not like a machine and I'm not perfect. And I'm also pregnant. So I'm giving myself some grace on like days where I'm like, I need to sleep a little more.
Yes.
But I'm usually in bed like 8 o'clock. Typically in bed, like ready to pass out. And then I wake up between 5 and 6. And that's before my son wakes up. Hey, Rachel here. Real quick, I hope you're enjoying this episode. Just want to tell you right now, we are currently accepting applications for our next round of Activate. Activate is our 12-month program where you'll be working super closely with me and other rockstar entrepreneurs to help you grow and scale your online business. You'll be getting my systems, my strategies, and so much more to help you grow your email list, launch your online course, do what you love, make a massive impact, and really create a profitable business that you love. So it's application only. Head to rachelandgom.com/activate to submit your application. And let's get back to the episode. For now, this is what I do. And I'll wake up and I'll read the Bible. I actually have the John Maxwell Leadership Bible, which is awesome. So I'll go through that and I'll do a little bit of meditation or prayer. I'm actually in my prayer closet right now, just because it has the best audio for podcasts.
Yep.
Dog barks like crazy, then it'll be muffled a little bit. But so I'll wake up and I'll just have that quiet time where I'll visualize what my ideal outcome is for the next year, next 5 years. I'll see things actually happening that I want to have happen. And I think that's huge. You have to have a vision and you have to see it before it actually comes to pass. And that's one of the things that I learned when I was playing volleyball. I played volleyball for 10 years. And one of the lessons in high school, I'm so grateful for my coach. He was tough, but I learned so much by working with him. And he would have us have quiet time before all of our matches where we would literally just like visualize ourselves getting the kill, visualize ourselves getting the block. And I remember I would be doing like our cardio on the bike and I'd be visualizing ourselves like just winning the Junior Olympics and getting up on the podium and getting that gold medal put around my neck. And when it actually happened, it was like the most surreal experience because I saw it happening for like an entire year before it really actually came to fruition. And so that's one of the things I always tell people to do is you have to have a vision and you have to actually see it in your mind before it happens. So that's one of the things I do in addition to writing out my goals in the first person.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So how long does all that take you? I think that's always a
Less
question
than
everybody
30
has.
minutes. Less than 30 minutes. It
Yes.
doesn't have to take a long time. So I drink my coffee while I am reading the Bible, and that'll take me like 15 minutes. I usually chug my coffee. I don't like it lukewarm. And then it's like 15 minutes of visualization, prayer, meditation, whatever it is that you want to do. It could be 10 minutes. It could be 5 minutes. Shoot, like you can do
Yeah.
a 5-minute little thing. And then just write out like your top 3 goals for the next year on the first person. It doesn't have to be this huge, big thing. Like it could take you 10 minutes if you wanted. Maybe you read for 5 minutes and you have quiet time for 5 minutes, like whatever.
I love that. And it's just a matter of making it a priority and saying,
Yeah.
I am going to do this because this is one of the things I need to do in order to move my business forward and to work on myself.
It's huge. It really, really is. And I don't think enough people take that time. If you start to study successful people, they all have a lot of things in common. Like they have a morning routine, they visualize, they meditate, just like start studying who it is that you want to emulate, who it is that you want to have a life like, and see what is it that they're doing? What are their habits? And how could you add some of those habits into your life?
Do you make vision boards to help you?
I do, yes, in Canva, and then it's the back screen, whatever you call it, on my computer.
Yeah, I love that. I have 2 vision boards. I have one that hangs out in my kitchen, and that's my family's. So like every year we sit down and we're like, all right, what do we want our next year to look like? And so we find images on the internet, on magazines, they cut them out, glue them on this board. It's super messy and it looks like a 5-year-old did it, because it did. And that helps our family to stay on track. And then like in my office is not glamorous at all, but I have a wall like right in front of my desk and I stare at that wall all day long. And so I was like, you know what? Let's put some business goals on that wall since I'm already looking at it all day long. And, as soon as I did that, I started to get really, really clear in what I want, what I don't want. And then something I found also that helps, and I don't know if you experience this too, is that when you're like working in your business and you look up and you see this image of something, you're like, oh, this isn't helping me to get there. Or, oh, this totally is going to help me to get there. And it helps it to become really clear as to what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing in your business. Do you experience that also?
Totally.
Yeah. It's interesting when that happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the visual and you're like, oh crap, there we go. I'm supposed to be doing that. Oh, this isn't doing that. And it like holds you accountable in a different way.
Yep, for sure.
So how has your mindset evolved, like the work that you do evolved over the years? Because I always think that whenever you grow and scale, and whenever you're dealing with like the next level, whatever that looks like for you, something has to actually change in order to facilitate that. And a lot of times I think it's your mindset practice first, and then the other things change along with it. So have you experienced that?
I don't know if my practice has changed much in the past several years, but some of the things, like the way that I think about things, are just like little shifts that I've made have. So I've learned a lot from Ed Milet over the past year, just diving into his content. He's friggin' awesome. I love this guy.
Yeah.
And just the concept of maxing out. And so doing like one extra thing, like one extra rep when you're working out, and the other thing is always keeping the promise that you make for yourself.
Yes.
And so if you tell yourself you're going to like do something, freaking do it. Like if you set the goal for today to do a workout or to have your nutrition be a certain amount, like don't go back on the promises that you make to yourself. So that's one of the big things. And then just learning from him of how can I continuously get better every single year. So every single year you shouldn't look the same. Like you shouldn't look like the same person every year. So how can you continue to grow? Those are, I think, some of the biggest things that I've taken away from him.
Yeah. Do you think that if you would have heard his message 3 years ago, it would have resonated with you as it does now?
Probably not. And I think that's what's so interesting. Like you could hear something and hear it again and hear it again. And then finally it like knocks you over the head and you're like, oh, that's what I need right now.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting how that happens? I think it's so fascinating. Huh. Okay, cool. So how do you think your mindset has helped you to build your business?
I think just being relentless with the different goals that I set for myself without letting myself off the hook of continuing to push myself and set bigger goals, of continuing to think bigger. And I think when I start thinking bigger and setting those bigger goals, I attract people who are thinking bigger too. So I'm getting better quality clients, which is awesome. And they want to stick with me. So like we're wrapping up our second round of Activate right now. And the students are like, I want to keep working with you. How can I work with you in 2020? And so we're signing them up for our next round so they continue to grow. And so I think it spills over into like the message that I bring to my clients too. So I see a lot of the struggles that they have with their mindset, and I'm able to help them with that. And it's like some of those little tweaks that they make, they experience these massive, massive breakthroughs. And a lot of times it's like, yeah, the business coaching helps them for sure, but it's the little mindset changes that I kind of call them out on when we're talking, that experience, they get that big transformation through that.
I love that. I think that a lot of times when we're working with people, especially with what you and I do, we're all about lead generation, strategy, things like that. Like what has to come first is the mindset in order for you to actually see that idea that you're working on, that strategy, that new tactic, whatever it is that you're doing. In order for that stuff to actually work and for you to actually see it through in the way that it deserves and needs to be seen through, you have to have the mindset first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the biggest things too is like helping me think bigger. And so I've always set these like goals that were out of reach, but now that I've hit some of these just crazy mind-blowing goals that I never thought were possible, it's like, dang, I'm still playing too small. So how can I think even bigger?
That's cool. How can I think even bigger? I think that's a big takeaway that we could all get from this interview. So last question for you. What is the legacy that you are leaving?
Ooh. Well, happy kids that are self-sufficient and love life. So family first for sure. Helping business owners just crush it so they can make a bigger impact. And so really inspiring and empowering them to think bigger, to make their business successful so they can help and support and serve other people. And then for our family, a lot of legacy is going to be in Africa, where we're starting our nonprofit and building schools and building a well. For me, that's kind of what legacy is. And also just making a crap ton of money so we can give a ton away.
Tell me more about your nonprofit. What are you doing there?
Yeah. So our first step is we're partnering up with a school. They don't have any running water. It's like such a basic school that was built by the government. And so we're going to bring a well for them. They don't have like a cafeteria or a library or like any of these things that we take for granted in America. So seeing how we can really help support the students there. And then next project will be building a school in a community that doesn't have one.
I love it. I just got chills as you were talking about that because I know that's how, that's so important for you and to you.
Yep, totally. Yeah. I mean, if money were no object, we probably would be living in Senegal. And if I didn't have these big dreams, we would be there, just helping people. But I know the more money we make, the more we can really help people.
Yeah. Money facilitates massive change in the world.
Totally. Oh my gosh, I've been watching Bill Gates documentary. It's like Inside Bill's Brain on Netflix.
Isn't that so good?
So good.
Yes.
And I'm just like, man, I need to become a billionaire so I can eradicate polio and do all these massive things. So it's really inspiring that when you have that success economically and you're not struggling and you're just able to help so many more people.
His pursuit, I think, is just fascinating. How hard he has studied and learned about the topic that he's, exploring. I just think I think it's fascinating.
Totally. He's so inspiring. And I was Googling, I'm what books is Bill Gates reading? Because I need to read his books.
I looked up that they mentioned a quantum physics books at some point, and I looked it up and I was like,
I don't know about that.
I don't know if I can do that one. I was maybe I should just buy it and put it in my vision board. And then
I'll read the United Nations World Report.
Yes.
That one I'm totally down with. That's the kind of stuff I read in when I was getting my master's in social work. So that I'm cool with. Quantum physics, I don't know. I could study that for a long time and I would still suck. So not my zone of genius.
I love it. All right. So where can our listeners find you online?
Yeah, so we have our podcast. It's the She's Making an Impact podcast. Our blog is she'smakinganimpact.com. And then you could grab our free Pinterest cheat sheet. We didn't talk about Pinterest today, which is actually kind of cool, but I help entrepreneurs get more leads and sales with Pinterest. So you can just go to pinwithrachel.com to grab that.
Awesome. And for listeners, we'll put all that in the show notes for you all to check out and download and consume. And Rachel, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Please go to iTunes and give my mommy a 5